Okay. Well, good morning, or good afternoon. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the Bidders Conference for the Upskilling Procurement. We welcome you. It looks like we have one person that has joined us. I guess I could give it a few minutes just to see if we have an additional folks joining us. It just turned 3 o'clock. I guess we'll go ahead and get started now. Welcome. We welcome you. We welcome all bidders for the Upskilling Pilot Project. The procurement was released on Tuesday, July 12th at 1 p.m. And if you're looking at your procurement, we have all proposals must be submitted in accordance with the instructions in the RFP. The RFP is due no later than 12 p.m. Central Daylight Time on August 11th. Any proposals or amendments received after that deadline will not be considered. Late proposals or amendments will be returned without review. And we're also not responsible for any technology issues. So another important deadline is questions were due today before noon, and we've received some questions and we've prepared responses. Those responses will be posted as well as any questions asked during this bidders call. They'll be posted July 22nd by 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's where we are right now with all the deadlines and things. So I'll let Lori Lorea go ahead and talk about the question and answers and responses.
Thank you so much, Connie. I'm Lori Lorea, President of Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas. Just to introduce everyone who's online, Neha, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Neha with MNK Infotech. It's really a privilege working with Workforce Solutions, and I have had that with closely working with Lynn Hoffman, and she has been such a great leader that I have personally learned, not just learned, but grown and really gotten that side of the business prospect growing. So our company is IT staffing and training, and we have had the opportunity to team up with Lynn on skills development training, and that has been so successful since 2020. I think we have been giving training, literally customized training, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity and to hear more about the direction that this bid will be coming along, and how as a vendor we could be more resourceful in providing those services.
Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, we agree. Miss Lynn is dynamite. She really is the innovator, and we're glad you had that experience. I'm going to go ahead and let the rest of our team introduce yourself as well, starting with Connie again.
Okay, Connie Rash, Senior Vice President, working with Workforce Solutions Greater Dallas since 1999.
Demetria. You're on mute. There you go.
There we go. Good afternoon. I'm Demetria Robinson, Executive Vice President, and I oversee contracts in our world, along with childcare and adult education and literacy.
And Wesley Newt. I think Wesley's having some sound problems still. Thank you, Wesley. Yeah. He is our Manager of Procurement. Thank you so much again for joining us today. I'm going to read into the record what has arrived in terms of the Q&A. Even with just you on the phone, I'd like this tape because the tape will be posted as well. On page 1, under qualifications, the RFP states that the training provider selected must have a physical presence in the state of Texas. Does physical presence mean an office in Texas, or does the training itself take place in Texas? Yes, physical presence in Texas is required. You may propose in-person or online training. So we did not mean to negate online activity. Do you have any prerequisite with respect to the registration and accreditation of the training providers? All training providers should have a proven performance record for the training proposed and support the acquisition of an industry recognized skill or credential. Most importantly, will the employer be satisfied with the effort, and will it lead to upskilling their workers? Does a single company have to submit an application, or can the application also be submitted by an association of companies? Although the multiple companies might be acceptable, each company would be negotiated separately based upon the number of employees. As you notice in the RFP, there's specific language about matching funds. So we would require a relationship with each employer. What is the expected duration for training projects in the RFP? More importantly, is there a maximum? Optimal duration of training has not been established for this procurement. Shorter term projects may ensure a greater possibility of positive outcomes within the contract period. As you know, Lynn will tell you, retention and persistence are hand in hand with seeing immediate results, or at least seeing some kind of feedback. So we discourage extra long training time without that credential. Stacking credentials would be great. And we want to make sure the time involved suits the employer's needs. That's the most important part here. What is the maximum training dollar per participant or acceptable range? Proposers should offer the best training cost per participant to ensure success. All projects will be evaluated based upon allocable, and reasonableness of the grant for our grant sources. Government grants really want you to get the best bang for the buck, but we're trying to make sure that people can move forward in their training path. And it's most important that they're getting a significant boost so that the employer will promote, pay more, open up slots for beginner new workers. What is the expected duration of the upskilling project funding? Funding will be specific to the employer's specifications, will depend upon available resources and proven performance. This is the first time we've done this in a very long time. This particular grant could go for the next year and a half. We could see supplemental grants along the way if this becomes popular and effective. And Connie, was that it?
Yes, ma'am.
I will stop share. This will be posted on our webpage by tomorrow noon, but being here, you get a free look at it. And you get the video will also be posted. Neha, we'll open it up to you. What other questions do you have for us today? What would help you?
And thank you, first of all. I really feel privileged that I have a room full of expertise here that I can just ask, and me by myself. So thank you. I feel very privileged here. I hope to, not bombard you with too many questions, but I mean, this looks like a completely open field, and we are a boutique solution provider. By that, I mean, we provide, and we have done some work with Dallas College as well in the past for a couple of years now, and we are a preferred vendor with them. Now, if this is an SDF grant, then we typically get the requirement from the client. It's solely determined and dictated by the client. So it could be anywhere from core IT training all the way to soft skills, like, the must-have skills in this spectrum. Do we have like a specific duration? Because then we are looking at blocking a particular instructor for a certain period of time, because usually when we see a typical training RFP, it usually gives you the number of hours that will be needed, kind of ballpark topics that we are looking at, that will be commonly used throughout this grant or this RFP. Is there any topics that we can look at?
It's going to depend on the employer. This bid is specific to employers, and the bidders will, and we've got a deadline on this, but I think we're going to have to extend it. We need the training provider to figure out what the employer needs and the duration. So if it's a smaller employer, do they only have 10 people? Do you want to stack 4 employers to get the contract and say that I've got this employer, this employer? We really can't do it until we see the cohorts, the pricing, and we would have to then have a relationship with each of the employers to satisfy the match requirement. So it's not a contract to produce ongoing training unless you have scheduled that training through the bid process. And right now, I would say the college and several others do a very good job of some things, but we're hoping to have vendors like yourselves to be able to find out what's really needed in the marketplace. And if it's successful, we can build on that. But we are looking at something that's employer respected and productive. And I will announce Jordan Fazio has joined us. Jordan, could you introduce yourself? You don't have to if you don't want to. I just give you that opportunity. We're in the question and answer portion. We have read the Q&A that was presented. It will be posted to our website by noon tomorrow. And Connie will recap the deadlines at the end of the call. I'll go back to you, Neha. Anything else?
So, and I have kind of broadly taken a look at this RFP, but my question is this particularly for vendors, training providers who will be giving out a list of training and that can be, used throughout this duration?
No, we're not establishing a vendor list by this process. We are trying to establish training and employer relationships and basically the employer approval of the training. We will pay the trainers directly once the employers sign off, but it's not a long-term vendor contract at this time. Again, first time we've done this in many, many years, and the board wants to make sure that it is employer specific.
So if I understand this correctly, my next question is, let's say my company has a need for training and that I'm putting out this RFP together, that this is what the requirement of training looks like. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
And, industry sectors could be encouraged where that employer calls on several others. But I think with an upskilling project, it's going to be hard to get employers to share since they want the upper hand. They want to be able to use this to boost their workforce and not lose their workers. So we realize that it's a tough deal for the training provider, but we appreciate you guys coming to the call to say, we know what it takes and we're going to contact those employers. We're going to make sure they know this is available. Our preference, of course, is that the employer resides in Dallas County. I don't know that we've made that specific comment. But the workforce comes from everywhere. So if you have an employer that's not in Dallas County, I think we would consider the review to see whether or not their population comes from Dallas.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Is there a minimum requirement of number of participants?
No, there are no minimums or maximums set in this for cohort size. It can be one-on-one if it's needed. We're not sure what is really out there in the marketplace. We just know that we're not hitting all of the specifics that employers want.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Jordan Fazio, any questions? Anything you would like to put in the chat or ask online? I'm going to go ahead and let Connie do the kind of a wrap up, but you can still be thinking. We'll take another round of questions. But Connie, if you would repeat the specific important deadlines.
Okay. The question and answers will be posted July 22nd by 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And all responses are due by 12 p.m. Central Daylight Time, August 11th. So any proposals or amendments received after that deadline will not be considered. And we're not responsible for any technology issues. So those are the two main deadlines coming up.
Okay, one more time. Any other questions about the process? As I said, if we're not that successful this time, we probably will extend the duration or continue to take applications going forward, but we would like to kick off with a good pilot. So any other questions?
Not from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fazio, any questions, anything in the chat? Make sure this provides you with the service. We thank you for both dialing in. And all right, Connie, I will turn it back over to you to conclude our business.
Okay, Well, if there's no additional questions, we really thank you for participating in today's bidders conference, and we look forward to your bids. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good
All
afternoon.
right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.